Sometimes the worst mistakes come disguised as harmless jokes, and trust me when I tell you this, one destroyed everything I thought I knew about love. My name is Sarah. I'm 28, and I'm about to tell you how 5 words changed my entire life. Jake wasn't the guy I was supposed to fall for. He wasn't the bad boy with the motorcycle or the businessman in expensive suits. He was just Jake, the guy who remembered I hated onions on my pizza. The one who drove 40 minutes just to bring me soup when I was sick. The one who listened to me complain about my job for hours without ever getting bored. We met in college through mutual friends, and somehow 3 years later, we were in this beautiful, undefined space where we acted like a couple, without the title. I told myself I was protecting us both from commitment pressure, but deep down I knew I was just scared. Scared of losing him. Scared of ruining what we had. Scared of admitting that this quiet, steady love was exactly what I needed. Jake never pushed. He never demanded labels or grand gestures. He just showed up every single day with that easy smile and those patient eyes. And maybe that's why I took him for granted. Because love that feels this safe, this natural, this right, doesn't feel dramatic enough to be real. The comment that changed everything happened during a girls' night out. We were talking about relationships, and my friend Emma asked me point blank, "So, when are you finally going to marry Jake?" Everyone laughed because it was obvious to everyone except me, apparently. And without thinking, I rolled my eyes and said, "Oh, please, Jake's just my backup plan. You know, the safe option for when I'm done being young and stupid." The table erupted in laughter, but I felt something twist in my stomach the moment the words left my mouth because Jake wasn't my backup plan. He was my first choice, my only choice, my everything. But I had gotten so comfortable in our undefined space that I forgot other people were watching, and more importantly, I forgot that words have power, even when you don't mean them. What I didn't know was that Emma's boyfriend was Jake's roommate. And what I really didn't know was that Jake would hear about my joke within 24 hours the next day started normal. Jake texted good morning like he always did. We made plans for dinner like we always did. But something felt different in his voice. When he called that afternoon, there was a distance I hadn't heard before, a careful politeness that made my chest tight. Dinner was quiet. Jake ordered his usual, asked about my day. Listened to my stories, but his responses felt rehearsed, like he was going through the motions of being interested when dessert came. He looked at me with those patient eyes I loved so much and said, "I heard what you said last night about me being your backup plan." My heart stopped because the way he said it wasn't angry or hurt. It was resigned, like he had finally understood something that everyone else had seen but him. I tried to laugh it off, tried to explain that it was just a stupid joke, that I didn't mean it, but Jake just nodded slowly and said, "I know you probably didn't mean to hurt me, but you meant what you said, even if you don't realize it." He was right, and we both knew it. Somewhere deep down, I had been treating him like my safety net, like someone who would always be there while I figured out what I really wanted. And the worst part was that he had let me. Because he loved me enough to be whatever I needed him to be, even if it meant being second choice. Jake paid the check, walked me to my car, and kissed my forehead like he had done 100 times before, but this kiss felt different. It felt like goodbye. He said, "I'm going to step back for a while. I think we both need some space to figure out what we actually want." I wanted to argue, wanted to beg him to stay. Wanted to tell him that I had already figured it out, that it was him, it had always been him, but the words stuck in my throat. Because how do you convince someone you love them when you've spent 3 years proving otherwise? 3 weeks later, I saw Jake at our favorite coffee shop with a woman I didn't recognize. She was pretty confident laughing at something he said with the same easy comfort I thought was reserved for me. They looked natural together, like they fit. And when Jake saw me across the room, he smiled that polite, careful smile you give to someone you used to know well. I realized then that Jake hadn't just stepped back. He had stepped forward into a life that didn't include me. And the backup plan he had been so patiently waiting to be activated had been replaced by someone who saw him as their first choice from day one. If you're watching this and you have someone in your life who loves you quietly, consistently, without drama, don't call them your backup plan. Don't treat their love like it's guaranteed, because one day they'll realize they deserve to be someone's first choice. And when that day comes, they won't be waiting for you anymore. The person you think will always be there won't always be there. Especially when you keep telling the world they're just your fallback option. Trust me, I learned this lesson. The hardest way possible. Have you ever lost someone because you took their love for granted? Let me know in the comments, because this pain hits different when you realize you had everything and threw it away with a careless joke.